Good morning. Another Monday, another day broadcasting from the White Hart Hotel in Lewes. And the lovely Jane is on this morning. And when I came in, everything was just laid out for me. She's absolutely magnificent. And then a nice cup of coffee. You see, a nice cup of coffee. I love coffee. I love tea. Da 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 da. Whatever. Nice. That song is about 75 years old. Mm. And another bright day, although we've got a chance of rain today, and the breeze is rather stiff. So if you wear a hat like mine, be careful, because it could go ahead of you down the high street. An interesting weekend, fully packed with various things like Glastonbury, cricket, you name it, it was there, including the strike. There's no mention of the strike in the newspapers this morning, or at least not in the headlines. It's all taken a back seat to G7, and we'll get on to G7 with you in just a minute or two. But first, let us get ourselves a nice relaxed mood and let's take our version of the Potter's Wheel. Here it goes. Right, that's always a very calming way of getting around, I think. Now, what we're going to do is to light up the proceedings a little bit better than we have been doing. And we'll, yes, we can just one flick of a switch, I think. And one twist of an arm. And there we are. Just a little better than it has been, although you're not going to get me to pull this up. I'm afraid that that's been there for the last 40 years, and it's going to stay that way. Right. You're watching Mirador Television out of the White Hart Hotel in Lewes, East Sussex. We will have, hopefully, the lovely Suzanne Mouchot shortly, and she needs to be invited, and we haven't quite got around to that yet, so we better do that now while I'm talking to you, and hope that things are going to work all right. And why shouldn't they? A new message we send, indeed we do, and we do that, and we do that, and we do that. And in theory, it should all work out. Hey, so there we are. And there's a little bit to talk about internationally as well locally, because the newspapers mostly are taken up with G7. And I suppose when you think about it, it's right that they should be, because here are the world's most wealthy nations, the leaders if you like, particularly of the open market nations. It doesn't take into account China. It used to take Russia, but it doesn't anymore. So it is the group of very powerful nations deciding what they should do mutually to take the world forum forward. And I'm not sure how often they meet, fairly frequently, I think. And today is the day, and they're meeting in Germany. So looking at the Prime Minister our Prime Minister has addressed the G7, and his message to the leaders is, do not give ground on Ukraine. We have set a marker in the sand, he says, and let's stick to it. And the reason that he's doing that is because some nations have been backpedaling already, looking at their own deficit, as it were, the effect that it's going to have on their economies. But what the Prime Minister is saying is, look, it may well be that we've got to bite the bullet right now, but in the long run, it won't be too bad. If we bite the bullet now, we'll find ourselves biting the bullet forever and a day, and none of us can afford that. So that is Boris's plea to the other 6 members of G7. The I newspaper: leaders seek united front away from the turmoil at home. Well, that's very positive. Where that it was true, of course, everybody is jockeying for position and what they can get out of it. But nonetheless, they are trying to look at whatever they can do in common and support in common with the world in such uproar and turmoil. The Financial Times: G7 aims to hurt Russia with an attack on its war chest, with put a price cap on crude exports. Well, crude, of course, is crude oil. As long as we're clear about that, it's not just crude airport. It's not naughty little pixies that you pull a string and something pops out. No. We're not talking crude in that sense. The Daily Telegraph: Biden to block the Prime Minister's answer to food crisis. Boris has come up with, supported by Germany, with an idea to switch the emphasis away from biofuel products and instead use the land to grow food in a way of easing the present food crisis and price crisis. The paper has got some backing, or UK has got some backing, but Joe Biden is very lukewarm on that one. Very lukewarm on that one. The Metro is the Full Monty little play, and of course the very, very funny movie, The Full Monty. But the reason that the Metro is going for this one is that they believe, or that the leaders are making fun of the fact that Mr. Putin is very, very macho, and that his strutting and so on, and being seen at the gym and so on and so forth, is something to be made fun of. I don't think that, knowing a little bit about Russia, I don't think for one moment Putin is going to be a bit worried about people poking fun of him that way. Although he is not a man known for his great sense of humor or tolerance of that sort of thing. But nonetheless, any jibes, I suppose, will have to hit the mark and upset him. But why they would bother, I have no idea. The Daily Mail: Britain is the £3 billion fraud capital of the world. Apparently, we get hit more with these fraudulent things as I am from BT, and you need to pay a top up for your phone. I need to pay some sort of top up. But do you think I can get any sense out of O2 with me? Not at all. They are really the lousiest company to deal with. If you can possibly not take out a contract with them, don't do it. I'm stuck, and I'm regretting it bitterly. I'm going to have to live with this. But good morning. The fraudsters are back, testing us with their phone calls and their emails. Is congratulations, you have been selected to. You've been selected to see whether we can winkle out of you your credit card and your bank account and so on. So be careful of that sort of stuff, because apparently it is rife in the United Kingdom, and they're thinking up new ideas to try and winkle the money away from us to the tune of £3 billion worth. The Sun: Charles cash in bag probe. I think it's very funny. A Qatar sheikh is supposed to have bribed, I think, 3 million, was it? Yes, 3 million. Well, 3 million euros. So it doesn't matter. And in trying to bribe Charles, is what they did was they did it all in cash, certainly, but in coins. And they stuffed the coins in sort of the equivalent of brown paper bags. And will it help? I have no idea whatsoever, because the idea, it really appeals to me. I find it very funny that Charles should actually take receipt of brown paper bags with lots of money in it, all in not in pound notes, as we used to say, but all in currency, in bits and pieces of money. And his aide would come rushing up from this meeting and saying, sir, I've got the first bag. Yes, sir, 3 bags full, sir. That he is going to receive this dirty money, if you like, and it's for a bribe. In that way, with bags stocked full of small coins. It's just so unrealistic. But then again, as a journalist, nothing ever surprises me. The Daily Express is rush to cash in on homes before the crash. Well, we've had already a little expose into that, or a little warning about what the consequences will be if particularly older people cash in on their equity finance, and particularly before and the crash that the Express is referring to is a rush to cash in on the market, the housing market at the moment, the property market is overinflated. So there's going to become a leveling out, and that's be quite severe in many people's view. And Charles has that view, and he was trying to get the money, and it's done it in a cash-handed way. The Mirror: the true horror of NHS dentist crisis. Well, the is it the Mirror has taken up, is that it is almost impossible to get to see an NHS dentist. So if you don't see an NHS dentist, the chances are that you have not got enough money, or you're too cheap or whatever, to go for a private dentist. But this is causing some problems in getting a dentist at all. And the paper focuses on one particular instance where a lady who was in intolerable pain, and she actually, with official backing, tried to pull out her own dentist teeth. So for the moment, the Star, my lovely, lovely Daily Star, is a fight mare, and it reports that a young, middle-aged lady who has worked at the inside job of the view of what's happening in the world, and particularly the airport crisis, and that she, or was it he or she? Anyway, whoever it was, told it must have been a he. He told his girlfriend to get lost. He didn't want anything more to do with her. Then he took off after Putin or whatever, and he couldn't actually bring himself to do anything about hitting her. But the there we go, a little alert for me. But in essence, the Star is saying that tempers are fraying, and individuals are going to see more and more of this as they get excited. And he's absolutely right. But then, everybody's is blaming Boris again. Why? I have no idea. None whatsoever. Right, where are we? We are. Well, let's give the time. 8:51 is the time, and it's on the 24th, the 27th of June, 2022. Lots happening. Not a lot of it very good news, although if you're a cricket fan, I think you'll be very pleased with the turnaround of the England side. Very interesting. Well, I think in many ways is that's the review that we're going to make with the papers, and it's 8:52. So strangely enough, we've been chattering and so on. And we shouldn't really. No, we most certainly shouldn't. Oh, well. I'm looking for these things, and of course, not finding anything. We should, in theory, have plenty to choose from, and in practice, never ever seems to work. Never ever. I do not see where I know very well that I've got things stored, and now let's see if we've got anything else.
Commentary from Mirador Television. Independent. What is good in the wine market now? Fergus Wood, expert on Mirador Television. Totally independent. Mirador Television. Independent television. Join us now.
Well, that's a bit premature because actually Fergus comes
Independent
on.
commentary from
Yes,
Mirador
okay.
Television.
We heard you the first time.
Independent.
Yeah.
From Mirador Television.
A good lad. Yeah. Right. And we should really come back to me now. Fergus Wood will be with us tomorrow. Nice young man, has his own wine business, and takes time to come and chat to us and to give us a rundown on some of the techniques of not only wine buying, but wine eating or wine drinking. Is what should you be doing in the restaurants now? What should you be looking for? Does it matter that there is a Sussex wine standard? All sorts of things that come up in the air. And we try hard to work with him to blow the bottle or prick the bottle of those people who are trying hard to revert to central planning and not letting the traders have their way and have their say. Okay, so I think we can dispense with that now. That's pretty good. We know we're independent, and everybody is just a little bit afraid of having a go at us, and there's no reason why they should be. We should be able to take the criticism. The important thing is that we're able to do these sort of things without fear or favor. And sometimes you do get somebody who is not so much ally of mine, of the anchor, but also every other little thing that goes on in the brush there. And I know that I'm not sure that Suzanne or Melissa have got a little project because there's a little water vole. The water vole is the mole in Ratty, The Wind in the Willows book, and we actually have done a little bit of turning it into TV here and there. Anyway, there's a fight and working into different things. So now I think that while we're waiting for people to join us, and well, I suppose if I do that, yes, we can. Suzanne says, send me the link, which means that she hasn't got it. So what we'll do is we'll find something to play, and Is there something on here? We should have something on here, surely. Well, now let's explain to you. One of the things that we're trying to do on this channel is to support the high street. And we are going to do that, well, two ways. We will play little features about the various premises and businesses on the high street, but also I've issued a general invitation to any of the businesses along the high street, right down to the precinct, to drop by any morning and come and tell us why they're there, what they're doing, and so on and so forth. So hopefully we can do that. But this one is made quite a bit ago. So forgive us if there is one or two little inaccuracies, but the pub hasn't really changed. Here it is from the...
Lewes is known for its independence of spirit. Many attribute this independence to the fact that American revolutionary Tom Paine lived in the town. He lived and worked in this building, which was a former pub. Right next door is another ancient pub, the Brewers Arms, affectionately known in Lewes as just the Brewers. There has been a pub on this site since the 16th century. A list of landlords from 1744, when records began, hangs proudly on the wall. The present building was erected in 1905 on the original site of the old pub, called the Ship. The Ship was a pub that lived through a glorious drinking tradition in the town, when it was graced by 9 breweries and 63 drinking establishments. That number has now been reduced to 15. While the number of breweries is reduced to just 1, the much heralded and successful Harvey's Brewery, which is first recorded as producing beer in 1790. Many of those 63 pubs have now disappeared, or have been taken over by big pub chains or major brewers. Perhaps because the independent spirit of Tom Paine has permeated the building, or perhaps because the Brewers Arms is so very well managed, the pub has remained independent. Business heroes of Lewes are stamped with the brand Independent, and the Brewers fits that mould exactly. In 1994, Kevin Griffin took over the pub and has proudly continued the free house tradition ever since. That independence is not likely to disappear. Kevin's family now run the pub, and it is firmly established as a family-run drinking establishment. His attractive and charming daughter Kathy is usually the first person a customer sees as they come through the door. Her welcoming character and warm smile greets both locals and visitors who enter through that front door. Helping her at the beer pumps is her brother Liam, who co-manages the pub with his sibling. The pair have continued the inn's traditions as well as the excellent management style set by their father, to establish the Brewers as a firm town favourite. In addition to making the Brewers a splendid pub, Kathy's husband Paul turns out a first-class menu in the kitchen. Trained at Brighton Catering College, Paul marshals his cooks each day to provide taste-bud-tempting meals, available from 11:30 until 8 p.m. There is the favourite staple fare of beer-battered fish and chips, lasagna, sandwiches and burgers. But Paul has maintained the tradition of good English food with daily specials of pies, stews, rabbit, poultry and other wonderful recipes. At the bar, tradition is maintained with a range of Harvey's beers, from bitter to winter warmers. But the spirit of independence flows through this lovely pub, and microbreweries are well supported. Exotically named breweries such as Burning Sky, Dark Star, Long Man and Hopback turn out ales with exotic labels such as Hop Smack, Hop Head and Summer Lightning. There are 2 bars. The front lounge bans the use of fruit machines, jukeboxes or television sets.
We consider the family atmosphere the most important part of this pub. The front bar has no music, so it's very much for conversation and people meeting and chatting. It's a very good place for people watching, and I learn something every day, whether I want to or not.
The back bar makes up for that with big screen TV, music and traditional games such as pool and darts. The esoteric Sussex game of Toads is also played here, and there is a team in the local league.
Yeah, we feel it's important to have the 2 contrasting bars. It gives the customers a choice of what sort of atmosphere they'd like. This back bar tends to be the louder of the 2, which has the pool table, the television and the jukebox.
The pub has a strong relationship with local sporting folk. Every Saturday, the Grass Bowls team piles in from the nearby greens to raise a glass to victory or drown their sorrows in defeat. Like the pub, the bowling club is unique. The greens are ancient, laid on the old castle tilting grounds, where knights in armour knocked one another off their horses with lances.
The bowling people come in every Saturday morning when they've been playing at the old bowling green, which is the oldest in the country, and you can always tell whether they've won or lost from their faces before they even get to the bar. Over the years we've been headquarters for many different organisations. We have lots of sports teams, and also the Church Wardens of St Michael's used to meet here many, many years ago.
Like most pubs, Sunday lunch is a favourite, and this bar is jammed with diners, regulars and occasional drinkers who drop in for the traditional English roast and a pint. Yes, the Brewers is a very special pub. It's independent, it's family run, it's steeped in tradition, and it has great food and drink.
I've been coming here for years. In fact, I predate Kathy and her family as a regular. With the good food, good service and good company on offer, I think I shall be a regular for a good few more years to come. Keith Hayes, South Downs Television, The Brewers.
Well, now, South Downs Television was the forerunner to Mirador, going back some 6 or 7 years, and it made some pretty good stuff, and that was one of them. And now I just had a little note from Suzanne saying she's having trouble getting on this morning, so let's have another go and see whether we can get through to her. There we go. We've got right. There we go. We'll have another go. Don't ask me why. These technical things are always very difficult. Now we've lost everything, I think. Let's get back to where we should be. Oh, dearie me. I sometimes do get us into a pickle. Well, I think I'm going to have to start all over again. So forgive me if I've buggered it up. Hopefully we're getting back online and we'll enter the studio. And this is where we go through a lot of nonsense. Right, okay. No, we can't do it that way. No, we're going to have to restart, so I do forgive us. Right, so I hope that we're back with you after trauma. But we'll now try and get hold of Suzanne. And actually, it looks as if the signal is reasonably strong this morning, I'm happy to say. Now, what we do is I'm sure that you're fascinated by watching my face and look at the screen, trying hard to we go to New York, and we hope that everything will work out for the best. Dear me. All right. Where were we when we were so rudely interrupted? I think that we had reviewed the papers where G7 are meeting. And it may be worthwhile because it is some time since G7 hit the headlines. And I think that what we should explain is G7 is the group of 7 most advanced economic countries in, I say, the Western world, with the open market. Yes, okay. I'm reading stuff at the same time as I'm broadcasting to you, so you just have to forgive me for that. The G7 is, I think the nations that make it up are Japan, Japan, the United States, Canada, France, Germany, ourselves, and one other, and I can't remember which one it is. It might be something like Italy, in terms of the membership, but they meet every so often to try and dictate global policy, which they can all subscribe, and so they are meeting at the moment, or did on the weekend, and that is the reason that we're getting suggestions that G7 would do this, that, and the other. And one of the things that G7 has said is they've started to ridicule President Putin, and President Putin is very much a macho man, a very macho man, and we some of the people at G7 sort of said perhaps we should take our shirts off and we can show people our own apps or whatever they're called. And I think that it is not wise to make fun of Mr. Putin. But the fact of the matter is that at the moment, I suppose that he is fair game in as much as he is not paying any attention to anybody. And indeed, why should he? He's on a course where he's virtually against the rest of the world. And paying attention to anybody else is... I remember what I was going to do now, because we showed just before we had to go and break and hopefully come back and find you again, is that I showed the Brewers Arms movie, and in it there was reference to Paul, who was the chef and who sadly passed away. But I thought he was a very popular character. His food was absolutely superb. He was actually married to Kathy, who is one of the owners of the pub. And he passed on a bit suddenly, a bit unexpectedly. Yes, Suzanne, if you can hear, try to use the latest one that I sent. It can all be a bit of fun. It's getting transatlantic each day. I suppose I can. Well, we mustn't bore you with the technicality of this thing. We'll hope that it just works the way it should. A very fine man, and I have to say that the Brewers have tried very hard to keep the team together that worked under him, to make sure that the standard of food and cooking is the highest standard, and indeed it normally is. And there's a little, and there we are. Right. Aha! Fighting technology. Together we are powerful. Good.
Finally, it's so good to see you.
How are you, Suzanne?
I am okay. I have Chicago behind me in this time.
Aha. Now, is that where you are?
No, I'm in New York. I'm back in New York. I was Chicago last week, but I had a great time. I actually went to a lecture with Obama. I was about 50 feet away from President Obama. So
All right. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, I often say that I interviewed the late Indira Gandhi, and when she walked into the room, I understood what the feeling of I've forgotten what the word is for it, but the powerful personality. It floods over you. It takes you. Charisma, I think, is the charisma. Did you get the same feeling with Obama?
It's funny. He definitely has sort of a presence about him, but he's quite down to earth and has a really dry sense of humor. So those things put together made him feel more approachable. But I was expecting this kind of larger than life kind of thing, but that's not really how he presented himself. So, but it was terrific. There was 8,000 people in the room. Everyone was
wow, 8,000 to see.
8,000, yeah, my biggest group since this whole COVID pandemic. So I was there. So it was terrific. And he spoke about. It was the same day that the decision came down from the Supreme Court.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. Well, we'll ask you about that in a little while. But this was your conference, as it were, is an architectural conference or building conference.
Yeah. It's the American Institute of Architects, and we have it every year. This was obviously one of the bigger ones again since the pandemic, and it was terrific. I went to see great architecture and saw beautiful. Went to terrific lectures. It was really great, and Chicago is gorgeous. I mean, Chicago is like ready for a party at all times.
Whenever somebody says Chicago, I keep on thinking of seeing Al Capone walk through the door.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know. It didn't feel like that either. That's my it was just very. I mean, every building looked beautiful. Every I don't know. The streets look fantastic. The lake looked gorgeous. I tried to get a photo of the lake in this picture, but it wasn't cropping properly. So.
Oh well. Now, tell us about the lecture that Obama gave. What does the President of the United States, former President of the United States, say to a group of architects?
Yeah, I think we were all hoping that he would talk about, obviously, the decision on Friday and just what's happening in the world. And so when the first question was, what is your favorite building? We're like, favorite building. So, but he had a couple of interesting things to say about that. He talked a little bit about architecture. He is building a new presidential center, and he has an architect team named Todd Williams and Billy Sen are the architects. So he talked a little bit about that. They put up the renderings, but then he finally started talking about what is happening in the United States, what is happening in the world, and what architects can do, with their kind of creative thinking and design thinking, to be more responsible members in society, and really try to bring people together, because architecture brings people together, if it's done properly. So,
well, go on, explain that a bit.
Yeah. So he talked. I mean, one of the things that he said, which I thought was interesting, was that. And you'll appreciate this, Keith, because he was saying, there was a time when everyone was basically watching the same news, regardless of your viewpoint, and you were taking away your own viewpoint. Now people kind of live in their completely different worlds. He said, make no mistake about it. There are people who live in one world and live in another world, and they don't necessarily even know what the others are thinking or wanting. And so he was saying that we have to all kind of figure out what are the new what are the new non-negotiables between all camps? So for instance, what is that one thing that we can all agree on, or two things that we can all agree on, regardless of what we're hearing and thinking? And he also has a great optimism. So he thinks that there is a way to move forward. There is a way to bring the 50 United States back together again. But the role that architects can have is that be more aware of city planning, be more aware of the role of community buildings in cities and towns, reinforcing relationships through outdoors, which are all things that we as architects know are important. But it's good that getting the word out that maybe instead of your next effort in your town, maybe you build a community center so that more people can come together who think differently. So.
Yeah. Well, here, let's build a little television station.
Yes, let's build a television station that bridges the pond.
Well, the fact of the matter is we are tiny at the moment, but I just got in the latest statistics, and we are growing like hell.
Hey, that's
terrific. I looked and I thought I've got the wrong stats. No, we are. We're beginning to lift off, and it's a steady growth. But over sort of a period of a year, we've actually got to something like 20 to 25,000 people, different people, which isn't bad for a little operation like us. And we are consistently now hitting about 2,000 or 3,000 a month. And that is only on one of our outlets, and of course we've got about 8 or 10 outlets. So I was really quite pleased and delighted. And it may be that our form of broadcasting, which there's nobody else in the world doing it, perhaps it does appeal. We've hit the spot. But my challenge to you would be, you see now, is for you to design the ideal small media center that it gives the feel and the ambience to the way that we do it, as opposed to the way that everybody else does it. So there you are. There's a challenge.
All right. Challenge accepted.
All right.
I would love that. Actually, we're at the university. We're trying to figure out what our next step is for our podcast room and things like this, and all of these things really matter because it is kind of the way to start those conversations going.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've always been an awkward cuss when it comes to broadcasting. And when I came back from Canada, I opened up one of the very first independent radio stations in Britain. And I must say that I was very lucky in as much as the manager would listen to different things. And he apologized because he said, look, your newsroom has got windows. And I said, well, thank God for that. I have never understood why radio stations deal in sound and then immediately seal themselves off from the world and from the world of sound. It's crazy. And that was 30 years ago.
And it's still an inclination. It's funny because we were talking about that at the university. It's like, oh, you can't have windows. And I said, what are you talking about? Anyway, I think it's, there's this philosophy that sound, doesn't know what it's doing. Sound can still work. Even with hard surfaces, you can figure it out, those kinds of things.
Yeah. I was looking at the, particularly just before we moved into the White Hart Hotel, but I was looking at the history of broadcasting and breakfast broadcasting particularly, and there are two things that struck me. First of all, when breakfast broadcasting began, it was okay, but then by accident they had to do an outside broadcast unit. And people were stopping by and saying hello and pointing to them and so on. And suddenly, I don't know if it was ABC or NBC or whoever it was. And suddenly, the whole concept of breakfast television took off. and it became an accepted form of broadcasting because it went out onto the street.
Yeah.
Now,
Exactly.
the other thing is that the most popular interview that they ever had was with the Penguin.
Okay.
Yeah. It just shows, we interview people and they're very sage and they give us great advice and so on. Nobody's listening. The Penguin was the best environmental thing that they ever had.
That's awesome. Well, I always believe penguins really know where it's at.
Oh, absolutely. And they dress for dinner as well.
Exactly.
Okay, now you just briefly mentioned Chicago. I don't know how often you go there, but as a city, you going back and forwards, are you seeing it growing? Are you seeing it lateral? Are you seeing it changing? What's your impressions of Chicago?
Yeah, I mean, I've been there probably only 5 or so times, and it was stunning this time. I don't know if it's because of the time of the year. I was there during the equinox, and so the sunrises were incredible on the lake. And honestly, the buildings and the architecture. I mean, it has a very rich architectural history. Buildings look stunning. The city was vibrant. Of course, there was a huge conference going on, so that was nice. But as a city in general, I mean, they struggle with crime. They struggle with education as a city. And hopefully, one of the things that Obama was talking about was that his hope is that his presidential center becomes a catalyst for sort of social responsibility community. It's actually very close to University of Chicago, where his future building is going.
Right.
And I had never been to University of Chicago's campus, which is also stunning. And I went to a new building that was built there called the David Rubenstein Forum, and it's part of University of Chicago. It's a big event center and art gallery, so that's a terrific building, and that's designed by Diller and Scofidio. So there's a lot going on. Millennium Park is still a great place to go. They also have a terrific aquarium in Chicago that I personally love. I brought the kids there when they were little. That really is making major efforts about environmentalism and sustainability, and they had a couple of lectures there. So I think Chicago is poised to kind of recover well, but one of the problems that we have in these cities is guns, and Chicago's no different. Chicago hasn't solved it yet. So
yes, we were talking about Seattle, and the last time I was there, I was with a bunch of journalists, and I said, "Oh, there's a great bar here where they have a sort of a pearly king and queen singing bawdy songs from the pubs in London and so on." But when I went out of the being cocky, I went out of the hotel. I turned left instead of right, and we kept on and on and on and couldn't find this damn pub. And eventually, we did find a pub, and we found our way right into the dead end. The what you call the Skid Road area. But by this time, being journalists, we were all as thirsty as hell. And we went in, and there were all these sort of, if you'll excuse the expression, sort of deadbeats propped up against the bar and so on. But you would have thought that we were royalty. They made us feel so welcome and so on. But the reason that I remember it is that there's this chap who wanted to shake hands with everybody. And every time that he shook hands, a derringer popped out of his sleeve into his hand.
Really?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Gun control.
Yeah. I mean, I guess in a sense it was controlled.
Yeah,
It was in his arm.
I doubt if you would have approved of this pub as an architect, but it gave me one of the moments that I remember for the rest of my life. Believe me.
Oh, I don't know. I could tell my whole life story in the history of pubs. There was a pub in New York City. I won't tell you how old we were when we used to hang out there, but it was called O'Donnell's, and we would go there. I mean, they would let anybody of any age. It's not open anymore. But there was this one guy who could who would always end up kind of sleeping in the corner, rolled up in a rug, and so we called him the Rug Man. There's a lot of funny pub stories.
Oh yes, absolutely. I mean, I personally nowhere near as clever as you and some of the other colleagues that I have around me, but I could have got a degree if I'd have tried hard in beer drinking. So
Yeah.
pubs were central, and of course our documentary, "The Bloody Past of a Tiny Town," is key. It starts with me going into a pub and ends with me going into a pub.
That's right. Well, that's how you get to know the people in a city, right? That's
Well,
the way.
yeah, I mean, that's interesting because, for instance, London is a whole host of small towns stitched together, and how do you, when you say you get to know the people in your city, how do you get to know the people in New York? Do you just get to know the people in your area?
Oh no, I mean actually this is something we had talked about before. The neighborhoods in New York City are very welcoming. Not all of them are residential, so you can be, like the financial district is just beginning to start having actual residential buildings. But I mean, the way they get to know a neighborhood is you kind of wander around, you buy food in their neighborhood. A lot of neighborhoods are famous for certain types of cuisine and gourmet food. So you'll go to the Koreatown, you'll go to Chinatown. We do have a Little Italy where there's great restaurants, great ways to go to
I
Chinese
remember
restaurants.
Little Italy. I love Little Italy.
Yeah, they still have their parties and their big San Gennaro festival is a lot of fun. And then, a lot of other areas in the city, like, the really kind of beautiful areas like the Upper East Side, the Metropolitan Museum. You can get to know an entire neighborhood just by going to the museum and meeting people there for seminars and for art shows. So there's a lot of ways to get to know a town.
Well, you certainly get around. There is a lady here who is a lovely lady, and her husband actually is a supporter of Mirador. But she's no spring chicken. I mean, she's in her 70s, but she gets into everything, and she's here, there, and everywhere. And I actually say to her, "You're my little blue-assed fly." Zoom, 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 zoom. And it's wonderful when people are so enthusiastic about the life around them and get involved. Unlike me that tries to sleep 28 hours a day.
Oh, no, I know there's so much to do. It's funny. I went to, I don't know, did I tell you about this? I went to a lecture at the Metropolitan Museum. Did I tell you this? And it was this great lecture about this new architect who just got the new modern wing. And she's young. She's about 40 or so, from Mexico City. Her name is Frida Escobedo. And she had this amazing presentation. But beforehand, I met my friend who's an architect. We met at a bar that was like a couple of blocks down, this famous bar called The Mark. And while we were sitting there, like LeBron James, the famous basketball player, walked behind me. And then we met a couple of people who we're now having dinner with in like a month. So, even just neighborhoods like that, you can meet people and have some fun. So
yeah, absolutely. Tell me, or let me say to you, if you can actually next Monday, which is the 4th of July,
yes,
we thought that we would have a 4th of July program and get Melissa on as well.
Great!
And she's asked me to get an American flag, but I thought that we would have a little 4th of July party. So if you're prepared for that and can come up with 4th of July ideas and thoughts and stories, it would be great. So, and particularly then, of course, we would be celebrating the 4th of July in the White Hart Hotel, who actually, according to legend, thought up the United States.
All right, that sounds terrific. And I'll send you some videos of our fantastic fireworks.
Oh yeah, terrific.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so you can
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So next Monday is the 4th of July. I know that it's a holiday, and you'll want to get out with the family. But if you can spend a little bit of time with us, so that we can, and with Melissa, and we'll have a little bit of a whoop-de-doo.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love it. My kids aren't up at 4 o'clock in the morning, so there's still time to
Yeah, well,
time to be with them.
yeah, yeah. We'll forgive the kids.
Yeah, they won't join.
Now, turning to our serious side, because one of the things that has occurred this past weekend, and I think probably is occurring today again, is a meeting of G7. I mean, particularly since you were listening to Obama, that the G7, of course, is the leaders of the, quote, free world, the 7 most powerful economic countries in the world, with the exception of China and the United States. The United States was a member once when it was G8, but it's gone reverted to G7 again. First of all, how aware the American public of G7 and its importance?
I say not so aware. I mean, it depends obviously where you are in the United States. I don't, and there's definitely. I mean, this is no secret. There's a movement in many parts of the United States to become isolationist, and so the viewpoints of other countries are not really paramount to a lot of people here. So, but I'm aware of it, and certainly know that it's happening, and I'm always thinking, what is the rest of the world thinking, when we do these crazy things, and I still, Friday was just such a strange moment, and to be at the heels of a decision that was made on Thursday by the Supreme Court, it's just an inconsistent sort of usage of the reading of the Constitution. It has nothing to do with guns, but it has everything to do with telling women what to do about their health care. So it was quite stunning, and I can't imagine. I mean, just seeing everyone's responses. I mean, Canada's response to what happened on Friday, they're just complete shock that this has happened. So
yeah.
I mean, it's a complex issue, of course, and but the reality is that you can't force people to do something they don't want to do.
Quite. I think. I mean, one of the things that the useful things that we do as Mirador is try to bring to the attention of people who wouldn't have a clue about a lot of things. So explain that issue, the Supreme Court issue, and also the gun issue. To people here who vaguely, well, yes, there's an abortion issue, and oh yes, it's a gun issue, but after that they have no comprehension of how important it is, or what the thinking is behind it. Do you want to take a little few moments and tell us about both of those?
Sure. I mean, they're basically the issue. Separate from the actual issue, the real debate is the role of the federal government versus the state government in the United States. And, the formation of the United States, which we've all read about, had a lot to do with giving certain levels of power to the states so that there wasn't this looming federal government always determining everything, because there's always a danger of authoritarianism and sort of edicts that control people that may not be reflective of the actual location, because we've also talked together about how huge the United States is and how different every area is. So right. On Thursday, the Supreme Court, which is, I think everyone knows that we have three branches of government. We have the legislative, which is the Congress, which is Senate and the House of Representatives. And then we have our judicial branch, which consists of the Supreme Court, and then all the lower courts below that. And then the executive branch, which is the President of the United States and the cabinet. So the judicial branch, the Supreme Court, reads cases. They choose to take cases. They turn down cases. They took a case that was, saying that the New York State law against concealed carry, unless for certain reasons, was not permissible. So that means that in New York City and New York State, you couldn't carry a concealed gun, meaning that, carrying around a handgun or whatever, unless you had a specific reason for it. Now, that could be that you are living in a certain area that required it, or you had a certain job that required it, those kinds of things. And the Supreme Court decided on Thursday, on the heels of all these horrible tragedies, that states did not have the right to put any limits on carrying weaponry. And the actual decision says that it's impossible to assume that if you're letting someone have a gun that they're not going to carry it. And so that's what the decision point that was written. And I mean, the United States is reeling from these deaths of these kids and deaths of underserved populations, in Buffalo, and to then be so incredibly insensitive, and also to just be so unaware of the fact that those kinds of rules, which doesn't mean that you can't own a gun, it doesn't mean you can't use a gun, it just means that under certain circumstances it's not appropriate, that is not possible. How do you get past it? And then at the same day, Congress passed, actually it wasn't Congress, it was Senate. The Senate passed a law that starts to look at some sort of measures around gun ownership. So the inconsistency is sort of difficult to kind of comprehend, And then on Thursday, the Supreme Court had accepted a case, and it was determined that in their opinion, and what's really surprising is it was 6-3. So even Chief Justice Roberts actually voted for this as well, or agreed to it, that abortion is not a protected privacy element in the Constitution, which means that so they say leave it up to the states. It's a state's decision. And so there are already multiple states in the United States that are already limiting access to abortion. But what's even sort of a little more stunning is not even just abortion, right? Because it also takes into account all the other privacy issues, which are ability to use contraception and gay marriage. And I mean, it's just hard. It's hard to believe, because we started to be a nation that started recognizing where we are in the world, that we've advanced and started to accept people. So hopefully that was a good summary. Was that a good summary?
A very good summary. Yeah. I mean, the fact of the matter is, first of all, we're always time conscious, but also, is in all the training that I've done over the years, and I'm sure that you're aware of this, is the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid.
Was that good? Did I do okay?
Absolutely. I think that we forget and we get carried away because we do have expertise, and we tend to use terms and examples that really are over the heads of many viewers. So no, you're excellent, absolutely excellent. And I shall get you to look at a whole host of issues now from now on, so that you can explain what's going on in the United States. And actually, Suzanne, to be quite serious, is your explanation of various things. I know you must look at me and say, Keith, aren't you going to ask me anything better than that? But the simple things, like, what you do with your family, the sort of picnics that you have, and so on, it builds a picture for us of life in the United States, because actually we have no idea, none whatsoever, unless we've lived there or been there, no idea at all what life is like in the United States. And it's really very valuable that we start to build this image, because to me, that's part of understanding who you're dealing with. And it gets rid of, it won't get rid of, but it will ease a little international tensions. So no, 10 marks out of 5. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Now,
I want something here that I would like you to explain and to have a view on, because Boris Johnson and Joe Biden have been getting along rather well recently, but they have got a difference at the G7, and that it's Joe Biden wants to block a plan by Boris Johnson to move the world away from biofuel production and instead use the land to grow food in a way of easing the global cost of living. Now, does that mean anything to you?
I mean, it does. I didn't know that specific thing that was happening right now, but biofuels are pretty controversial as it relates to food scarcity. You know, I mean, it's an issue. You know what you have in Britain, which is amazing. You have this indoor garden in the basements, and I think it was the former subways or something like that.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, in London. Yeah, I mean that's incredible. I mean, the more we do that, and able to do these hydroponic gardens, and then use land for other purposes like developing alternative fuels, I think is kind of potentially a solution. But yeah, I mean, I can imagine the two of them fighting over
that. Well, at least it's only one little thing that they are fighting over. And now, while we're talking about fuel, is of course the petrol at your pumps has just rocketed, absolutely rocketed. I was trying to remember in my days in Vancouver in the 1950s and the late 1950s and throughout the 1960s. And it seems to me that petrol. A gallon of petrol was something like 75 cents, and now you're paying $5 for it. That's one hell of a rise, even in a sort of 20-year period.
Yeah, no, it's about $100 to fill a tank or so right now. So people are trying to find alternatives to driving. It was funny because the pandemic, nobody wanted to fly anymore because it was easier to drive and it was cheaper to drive. Now I'm thinking people are going to start flying again. So maybe, but flying, of course, uses fuel too. So eventually that will transfer to the cost too. So.
Yes, the airports are in absolute chaos here. Once again, because I'm not an economist, I don't totally understand why, and to me it raises a question, is the UK statistics show that we have got full employment. The first time in 30 years or something we got full employment. But the chaos at the airport is because they can't get anybody to take a job.
Yeah.
That's
well, you full of them. Yeah.
It's a bit strange. And one commentator described it as people come for a job and they get all enthusiastic and are sent for a follow-up interview and they don't turn up.
I don't. It's such a weird job market right now, and I feel like people are trying to find their perfect role. But I mean, when you're doing unemployment and you say that you have 3% employment, of course, that relates to the workforce. It doesn't relate to how many jobs are then unfilled, which is a whole separate calculation. But people are pretty selective about what they're going to do, what they're coming out of their house for. People love remote work now. People like being able to work from home and having that flexibility. Yes. A job at an airport is obviously not something that you can do remotely. So I think that's part of the issue. The other issue is that I really do think that we shouldn't underplay the effect of the pandemic when it comes to people relating with each other, organizational structures, knowing your role in an organization, being able to work effectively. All those things I think have to be relearned. I was at the airport this obviously this past week to get to Chicago. And I was really struck by how people don't even know how to line up anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Same here. I mean, and particularly with all due respect, as an oldie, is I catch a bus, and you know, I'm the first at the stop. Not that I expect to get on first, because I'm still an old style gentleman, and if there are any ladies there at all, I let them on, even if there are 50 of them. But I am amazed that sort of 18 and 19-year-olds will turn up and immediately park themselves at the front of the queue. Is the whole idea of queuing seems to have gone out through the window. And I don't know how you instill that back into youngsters. I really don't. But,
I don't know.
But I think that you're absolutely right about the pandemic. And once again, the sort of chat that I have socially is that particularly the English pub, is a lot of them have now gone to almost just being mini restaurants. They serve food and they discourage you from bellying up to the bar. Now, standing at the bar and talking in an English pub was one of the great social incidents in a day or a week. You went and it didn't matter who was there. You were soon having a conversation, having a go at the government or approving of the government or talking about all sorts of things. And it was a wonderful social occasion. Because of this penchant for now making sure that you're in there to eat, that has partly been destroyed. And it was a great debating society. And I wonder why or what we're going to do to replace that debating society. And don't say play bridge.
No, I do think that we will start having that come back. I have a good friend who owns a bar in New York City. It's called Mary O's. And during the pandemic, she obviously couldn't be open, right? Because everything was closed, and then bars kind of slowly reopened. And so she was using her bar. She has 6 kids. She was using her bar to make scones, which she would then sell to kind of, make up the money. And then she would homeschool the 6 kids in the bar. They would all have their little spots as they were learning. And she ended up being featured of Humans of New York. She ended up making over $1 million in scones because they did a story on her. And so she's still making the scones. We all go on Sundays and help her, make scones because she's still filling orders, But what she's doing with her bar now, which, she's Irish, she's from Ireland. She has started doing kind of like little seminars and little things like that start getting that same, like you're talking about, that same kind of conversation and debate going in a different way. And so I think, people will start getting used to convene. I think honestly, Keith, the problem is people are still too scared to convene. I really do. But maybe that will be the change. Maybe next time you'll go to an English pub and everybody will have like a lecture, and then everybody will start debating the lecture and making fun of the lecturer and everything.
Yeah. Well, of course, pubs traditionally have had clubs within them. I mean, there is still the Tom Paine Society, actually the Tom Paine Headstrong Club, which was the original club which debated the future of man. And the whole idea was that there is a book, and I don't know if it's a diary or whatever, but there is a book, and whoever has got the book in front of him holds sway as chairman of the meeting. And that book is still the same book that Tom Paine used, because actually, whenever he walked in, he grabbed the book. he didn't care. But that Headstrong Club still exists. And my understanding is that though they don't turn up, is that there are people like Margaret Thatcher and Henry Kissinger who actually are members of it. And it's remained that sort of at that level. So very much the debate and the Tom Paine debate is still there, and it's still in a pub. Right, strike one against our argument.
Yeah, hopefully it will all right. I mean, things are changing, and change is good, but hopefully we keep taking the good stuff from the past and reintroducing it.
Now, how much longer have you got with us, Suzanne?
Just a few more minutes.
Okay. Well, I was going to actually play our little Potter's Wheel.
Okay.
I will, because it's only a minute. That gives us a chance to pull our breath. Now that statue that you saw there, the helmet, which we've adopted as the logo for Mirador, is about 7 feet high, and I forget who the sculptor was, but it is called a piece of architecture. Now, are you okay with that, or would you say that's not architecture?
Yeah, I'm more okay with that being called architecture than low voltage cabling that runs through a building for computers. So.
Right. It is quite a remarkable. It's about 7 to 8 feet high, and it is the representation of a medieval helmet. And I think I said to you last time, is we've named it Sir Genry. Since John and Henry were in medieval times were the popular names, so we melded them. So to us, it's Genry, but it does mark. It is not the site of the Battle of Lewes, but the Battle of Lewes spilled over into the priory that was there because the king was holding a feast. And for some reason, Simon de Montfort found out that he was having a little party and drinking and thought, now that's a good time to have a go at him. So he attacked part of the king's troops actually in the priory. So it does stand on some part of the Battle of Lewes architecture. But the other thing is, from an architectural point of view, and I mentioned this to you before, but I don't mind mentioning things half a dozen times because we never know who's watching, is that the infrastructure, because Henry VIII and his vandal, Thomas Cromwell, pulled down the priory, but they couldn't pull down, and it's left is the foundations, the inside walls and so on, which are still there. And from time to time, I go and I actually push them, right? Here is something that is 2,000 years old, and it's as firm today as it was when they built it. And I find that quite incredible, quite incredible.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, that's a really good thing to bring up is that the foundations that were built at that time, I mean, they were basically built to, withstand a lot more than ours are. I mean, our buildings are designed as thin as possible to try to, reduce cost and things like that. Cost wasn't much of an issue. Materials weren't much of an issue then. So, yeah, so they were there to last and to stay and to enjoy, forever.
Absolutely. Apparently, the church of the priory was as big as some of our cathedrals and dominated the town. But one of the historical facts that I find interesting is that the Priory had its own fighting men, because in the days when we didn't have a police force or whatever, local squires and organizations would keep a number of fighting men, both as a social responsibility, but also so that nobody could knock them off the perch. The fighting men of the Priory they actually fought off the French in a very, very gallant bid. Even the French said 200 bowmen, English bowmen, tried and tested, fought off our Frenchmen. They actually only fought them off from the Priory because it's on the one occasion that Lewes was actually overrun by the French and occupied. So there you go. Now you know about Sir Henry.
Yeah, and maybe now we know kind of the beginning of why the right to bear arms personally in the United States, where it came from.
Well, it could be. I mean, there is a similarity, isn't there? In fact, right here, which I can't show you, but there is a fireplace. It's an old fireplace, and etched into it is the initials TP. Now, most people think that's Thomas Paine because he was here and so on, but in fact, it is from Tom Pelham, and Pelham was one of the local squires and actually built this hotel. He built it as a house to begin with, and then it was turned into a hotel. But there is in the church a frieze of Sir Nicholas Pelham, who was a local hero because he took his force of men and went down to the south coast to a place called Seaford, which was being attacked by the French, and fought them off. So he was something of a hero. But he also ended up in the Tower very briefly because the king sort of sent a little word to him and said, "Hey, Tom, I'm putting together an army and I'd like to use some of your fighting men." And Pelham said, "Bugger off." The king was not amused and threw him into the Tower.
That's tough stuff, boy.
Suzanne,
it was a long tradition for Masons to etch their initials or whatever their kind of insignia in the stones that they laid in the building. So it's kind of nice.
Indeed, it was. I mean, you reminded me of that, and of course, Masonism, if that's the right word, is very, very strong here. There are several Masons' lodges in Lewes, and that's only a tiny little place. But my wife was approached by several occasions by Masons to say, "Look, we'd like to get Keith in, could you persuade him?" And she said, "Leave it alone," because the moment that he got through the front door, he tried to reorganize it. So a Mason I never was.
It sounds like your wife knew you very well.
Absolutely. Just one other thing about the Priory. Is that it is one of the failures for some reason. We do very, very good outside concerts and bonfire nights and so on and so forth. But in terms of that, it's a very nice park. But some people tried to start a candlelight supper, with entertainment and so on and so forth, to honor the Priory, and they couldn't get it off the ground. And I've never understood why, but it just shows how some things appeal to people and others don't. I'm a great Priory fan. You ask me to talk about the Priory morning, noon, and night, I'll grab your ear. I used to go down there in the very early days of Mirador. At 5 o'clock in the morning, and I would talk to the rabbits, of which there are many. And I would talk to the ghosts of the monks, of which there are also many. Only a few of us are privileged to see them. And then I would actually, using my phone, is do a broadcast from there. And I did that for many years at 5 o'clock in the morning, religiously, every morning, every summer morning, anyway. So it's got a special place in my heart for the dear old Priory.
Oh, it sounds terrific.
Okay, now you have to go.
I do.
It's been an absolute pleasure, of course, having you here. And we do learn a lot about the United States from you, stuff that we should know and don't. And I do appreciate you taking the time and indeed just describing things that your family does. But since you are my second blue-arsed fly and zip across the United States, you're able to give us, it is a big place and things do change differently. And I mean, the mere fact that you gave us a very nice assessment of Chicago, because I have no concept of Chicago at all. And now I've got a better feeling. Instead of these sort of a city of tenements with machine gun carrying mobsters, it is a modern city with great architectural value. So thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. And I'll see you on July 4th, and we'll have fireworks. And you know what? Maybe even though it's going to be so early in the morning, I'll have to have hot dogs and hamburgers.
Well, what a good idea. What a splendid idea. Yeah.
Okay, maybe one of my kids will make a cameo appearance.
Oh yes, if they can get out of bed, perhaps they will, since it's July the 4th, and they'll be getting excited. They might just be out of bed. Yes. Suzanne,
thank you so
lovely.
much, Keith.
Yeah, we'll talk to you. See you next week.
Okay,
But
all right,
probably may talk to you in the meantime. I mean, I look at me. I'm getting very excited. I really am getting excited about Mirador because, I mean, in a slow way, but it's starting to do what it set out to do. It's open door policy, and people are dropping by. And when Melissa was on last Friday, some lady poked her nose in, and I said, "Who are you?" And she said, "Oh, well, I'm just walking my dog." And Melissa heard, she said, "I want to see the dog. I want to see the dog." So this lady who is about 20 years of age and lives in Lewis, but was going to Exeter University, ended up on television talking to Melissa, but so did the dog.
See, that's like, no one's doing that. Only you.
Only us. See you next week.
Awesome. All right. See ya. Take care, everybody.
Bye. Well, there we are. Suzanne Mouchot. What a lovely lady, a very talented lady, but also very perceptive. And I think that finding out what's happening in the United States is, to say the least, important to us because we really don't know. And getting a feel for it is let's see. I think what we better do. I love playing this just very quickly.
We're busy doing nothing, working the whole day through, trying to find lots of things not to do. We're busy going nowhere, isn't it just a crime? We'd like to be unhappy, but we never do have the time.
It's not a bad, not a bad little sting, is it? but let us see whether we have, for some reason. There we go. Let us see whether we can find a nice little program here. We keep several on tap. It's just me trying to find it is sometimes that's a bit different. Well, that's just exactly what we left. So why on earth we have got that, I have no idea. But we better go somewhere else. Right, okay, I don't want to keep you waiting. Oh, here, Rosie's robot waitress. Right, let's have a look at that. That's sort of fun.
Rosie, how's this for a first? A robot has been employed as a waitress at the tea rooms and restaurants in Cobham, Surrey. She has enthralled all the customers. Her name is Teresa. She's very friendly, efficient, and they love her. She has built up a terrific fan base in the area. Take a look. Are you going to put Robot Teresa to work?
Yes, she will gonna go to the carriage to the ladies with the kids.
I am going to work now. Hello, here is your dish.
What was the experience like?
It was interesting.
Children loved it.
Yeah, the children did.
Yeah.
Freya, what did you think of the robot?
Did you find her pleasant?
Yes, very polite.
Very nice to talk.
Hello, how are you today?
It's really simple to use, which is to press any table number and choose the dish and just press start, and then she's gonna go to the table which has been selected.
I am going to work now. Hello, here is your dish. Please take it away from my tray.
Do you wanna touch the red pan? So it will move fan.
The red pan?
Yeah, it's on each
Oh.
side.
I'm going back to work now.
That was an amazing experience.
Yeah, definitely. Really good. Were you expecting anything like this at all this morning?
No, absolutely not.
She memorizes, she has her own base where she's always staying. She's not replacing any human being. You just assist the person, like assist the waitress to help them. Maybe one day is gonna be our future, but at the moment, like, it's just for fun, for attract people, kids, and just have such a nice time here.
Hello, how are you today?
Well, there you are. That was Rosie Hayes, no relation, by the way, but a very, very fine journalist who runs her own little news agency out of somewhere near to Lewisham, I think. And she comes up with some very, very good stories, but she actually got us kicked off Facebook on one occasion. she did a terrific story on a protest in London about closure of some cycle tracks, some cycle pathways, and the way that a bicycle organization and some individuals did it was by riding nude along this cycle track. And she sent me the story, and I played it, only to have my fingers badly burned by Google or whoever it was, saying, you can't do filthy things like that. Eventually, when we took some time and persuaded them that it was just a protest and not a filthy thing, we got off with it. But Rosie knows how to tweak my tail. Okay, where are we? It is 19 minutes past 10. We just saw the robot waitress. Oh, good morning.
No, I can't stay. Just
wait a minute. Well, come and lean over my shoulder and say goodbye. You can't pop in without your fans knowing that you are here.
I don't have fans.
You most certainly do. I saw the stats over the weekend, and I'll let you know.
Okay, listen, just listen quietly.
Right.
Vaughan Smith would love to do the programme on Wednesday with me.
Super.
They're in the middle of a fundraising thing. So this is just right, because we can do this and we can give him the video afterwards.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. It's fantastic.
Super.
And it's a really good story.
Yeah.
Because you start off in Ukraine and we'll talk how he formed the Frontline Club and what a success
yes,
it is.
Absolutely. Terrific.
Yeah, we're up there the weekend. It was wonderful. I've got a dash, Keith. I'll talk to you later.
See, he's got no time for you.
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Come, let's see your face.
Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye, everybody.
Another fine mess he's got me into.
Yeah.
Sell your line.
No, yes, you did.
That's great news. That's good news.
Very good news.
Yeah, Suzanne was just on, and she was terrific. On Friday, we had a little bit of give and take with people wandering through. Yeah. I think that we're having a good time. And as I say, the statistics are looking very, very promising.
Excellent, right.
Go and do whatever it is you do. Leave me, abandon your fans.
I didn't agree to be in every game. Actually, someone else was saying that to me, because on television and Cambridge and all the rest of it, I've become a character, not without prompting from you.
Great.
I'm now going to go and talk to my fans in Brighton, if you don't mind.
Well,
Stanley.
If you will go to lesser places.
Okay, see you later.
That's Stuart Dolby is a big part of Mirador Television, who actually on a Wednesday co-hosts with Max. Max. Let's see. Heading Max. Sorry, Max. It's age. I forget names. Nothing personal at all. It's Max is a super young man who hosts our Wednesday program along with Stuart, and they are working very hard to get good guests to give you information. Basically, their focus is on energy and what's happening with heating costs and so on and so forth. But they'll talk about anything. But it's a good show and worthwhile you tapping in at least for a bit of it. So we are now at 10. I have to put my spectacles on. 10:23 we are, and we will go for another half hour. Let me catch a breath, and let's play what I call the Potter's Wheel. Well, yes. Just trying to think of where we might go next, because Mirador Television is free flow. If somebody walks in through the door at the moment, then they get collared and they come on television and they tell their story. Incidentally, we will have in the next, probably a couple of weeks away yet, but Eliza Page has done a whole series of interviews with a variety of people, and her programs will be shown on Mirador probably after our August break. We are going to take a little time off in August, just so that we can actually get up at 7 o'clock instead of at 6 o'clock. But nonetheless, there are lots of interesting things going on, and we try to capture them. And we know from the statistics that are fed to us by various social media that we are on the go. We are beginning to really take off, and we're delighted because it's a very easy type of television. You hear us whittering on. Sometimes you'll see things that have bored the hell out of you, but always it's there for people to walk in through the front door, sit down, and tell us what they do. And we are going to have several of Liza's programs, which are very interesting, from Holocaust victims to people with distaff ideas, and we're able to bring in different thoughts, different ideas. We're not bullying anybody into thinking anything or saying anything. So all in all, is not bad, not bad at all, not bad at all. So perhaps I should, at this particular stage, run through the papers with you again, and let's take a look at the news as it's depicted on the front pages of the national newspapers. It is not the latest news necessarily, but it is important news. And the Guardian is, do not give ground on Ukraine, Prime Minister tells leaders. There is some move among some countries that as it becomes aware that the war in Ukraine is going to last for quite some time, is to actually be appeasing to Russia. And of course, at this stage, the appeasing would be, well, look at all the country that we've taken, the land that you've taken, is why don't you take that and shut up? No, that's not on. And Boris is gearing up to fight his corner and say, look, what we're saying is we need to get ourselves going. We need to challenge what the Russians are doing. The Eye, leaders seek a united front away from turmoil at home. The reference is to the meeting of G7. G7 are the leading nations on the face of the earth, with the exception of China and Russia. And they get together, I think it's annually, but certainly very frequently, to discuss how things are working, whether in fact it is aiming for their, what should we say, not their theory, but what they think should, and try and get a consensus on what they think should happen in the world economically. So they were they're working nicely together. The Financial Times, its headline is G7 aims to hurt the Russian war effort with a price cap on crude oil exports. As I said, using against countries' embargoes quite often makes the countries who are placing the embargoes sometimes as badly off, if not worse off, than the countries they're trying to support. Life in Britain is very different at the moment, and it is up to our people, our newspapers, to point some of these things out, and we try very hard to do that, be it on a local level, but we are very we approve of being able to say what you like, as long as it's not libelous, and to things that are not said on other media outlets, because we need those outlets. We need free thought. We need debate. We can't go on patting one another on the back and saying that we're doing very well, thank you very much, and then be resentful if somebody actually pricks our bubble and decides to have the ladies of the G7 nations suss out what we can do in terms of bringing these things to you. The Daily Telegraph, Biden to block the Prime Minister's answer to the food crisis. And basically, once again, it is the Americans who will have a pop at the Russians. Probably it's difficult to explain to people like ourselves, and this is where we got to try and take up the system as it is and run with it, because we are trying hard to do things to bolster freedom of speech. And it is unfortunate, but it would seem not to be the case amongst those people who are, I don't know, what should we say, the people who confront them. And we try to do a lot of that. Waffling, Metro, The Full Monty. That's a play on words from The Full Monty, a rather amusing film where boys come and start to help shoppers who are naked and who have dropped stuff all over the place. But the Metro reports quotes Boris at the G7 meeting in Seattle. And we're quite right. We're quite right. We may well get visits from these people because, after all, they've got as much say as possible. The Daily Mail: Britain is $3 billion fraud capital of the world, and apparently we are in the UK. We are actually prone to giving in to some of the con things that we get either into an email or onto phones or whatever these fraudsters could get us to. And they sound more and more plausible. They've obviously done their homework. they know a little bit about us. But anyway, that is the Daily Mail. We're going to spend fraud, be known as the fraud capital of the world, but in a positive sense. And the Daily Mail is one voice in the fight against crime. It's that simple. The Daily Express is rush to cash in on homes before crash. Once again, an attempt to play on words. And what they're really saying is that the housing market has been hyperinflated, and to get a decent lifestyle, the mortgage that is held on a home can, under certain circumstances, release a mortgage or release money, cash. And the G7 leaders are not sympathetic to that. They think that that those businesses which come on can easily give in and not be supportive of the G7. Mirror, true horror of NHS dentist crisis. The one thing about this is, and I saw this on television this morning again, and that is that people are actually pulling out their own teeth. Can you imagine? And I can remember a great old aunt of mine who was caught living in the here. What am I saying? She was caught in the era of family split up and so on and so forth during the first war, if you like, the Crimea War. And I remember her telling me about how you would tie the offending tooth to the door handle, and then somebody would push into your face a scalding kettle, and you would rear back, and the tooth came out. God help us, we don't ever have to refer to that. But some people are saying that they're already pulling teeth out. The Star Trek is a fight mare, essentially, at airports and so on. Fights are breaking out, and normally genteel people. Genteel people are saying how much they are not prepared to have this sort of upset of everything mess that we've got to in this world. Where are we? 10:38 is the time. We're broadcasting from the White Hart Hotel in Lewes. We've had a good run for our money this morning with Suzanne Musha. And also little tucks in in the way that people will have a little natter, a little gossip. And I suppose that I am beginning to feel the fact that I was up at 5 o'clock this morning. And while I'm fine when I'm talking to Suzanne, is my mind starts to wander when I don't have anybody here to keep me on the straight of the narrow. But nevertheless, I will tell you that Suzanne Musho, she helped us talk to the NHS dentists, very few of them. And those that are, is some people that actually pulling their nightmare, their dentist stuff into a nightmare, and not very happy about it. Not very happy at all. Okay. The Star reports in its own inimitable way. Some of the never mind, I've lost my train of thought, and we should be able to find well, it doesn't look as if we've got anything stored there. No. I'm sorry about this. It's we are slowly getting better organized, and the more people that join us, the easier it becomes. But I'm sure that what you're seeing at the moment is dear. Mm-hmm. Well, let's just see, because I can't fart around here any longer. Morning, Sally. And well, thank you. There's a beautiful Sally. Now we've had the two ladies this morning
with Stuart Dolby.
Terrific.
Energy Matters. Mirador Television.
And this will come on Wednesday.
From the White Hart Hotel in Lewes, Energy Matters.
Oh, well, that's just the promo for it. That's taken me a bit by surprise. What else might we have that would be interesting? And I think that I don't know. Let's take a look at what we might have stored in the archives and see whether we can. There we are. These things pop up. They're sent to trials. We need to fiddle around a little. It's very important sometimes to know your way around these computers, and I must confess, it is not one of my not one of my great abilities. Well, we're not having much luck here at all, but you just have to forgive me. Yes, yes, she said. I just wish to get one of our programs, and I find it very difficult at the moment. I don't know why. Normally, I can come across all sorts. Well, there's absolutely nothing in that one. And keeps taking us back on loop. Okay, it is 10:45. I think what we will do is we will say a truncated, have a truncated day. We actually didn't take a break this morning between Break and Egg and Mirador Television's Affairs from the Heart. So perhaps what we'll do is we will be a bit lazy and we will lop off our broadcasting rather than bore you to tears with stuff that you don't want. And I'm not prepared to give you. I wouldn't even know how to start. So thank you very much all for coming into us this morning. And we look forward to being able to show you other things, lots of interesting things, particularly from Lewis or from the rest of the world, because we do make the point is we are not and in no way forgetful of where
Houses for a first. A robot
well,
has been
let's
employed
Rosie
as a
again. Let's
waitress
look at Rosie
at
again.
tea rooms and restaurants in Cobham, Surrey. She has enthralled all the customers. Her name is Teresa. She's very friendly, efficient, and they love her. She's built up a terrific fan base in the area. Take a look. Are you going to put Robot Teresa to work?
Yes, she will gonna go to the carriage to the ladies with the kids.
I am going to work now. Hello, here is your dish.
What was the experience?
It was interesting.
Children loved it.
Yeah, the children did.
Yeah.
Mario, what did you think of the robot?
Did you find it pleasant?
Yes, very polite.
Very nice to talk.
Hello, how are you today?
It's really simple to use, which is to press any table number and choose the dish and just press start, and then she's gonna go to the table which has been selected.
I am going to work now. Hello, here is your dish. Please take it away from my tray.
You wanna touch the red hand, so it will move now.
The red hand?
Yeah, it's on each side.
I'm going back to work now.
That was an amazing experience.
Yeah, definitely. Really good.
Were you looking like this at all this morning?
No, absolutely not.
She memorizes. She has her own base where she's always staying. She's not replacing any human being. You just assist the person, like assist the waitress to help them. Maybe one day is gonna be our future, but at the moment, like, it's just for fun, for attract people, kids, and just have such a nice time here.
Hello. How are you today?
There we go. It ends a bit abruptly, but it's a good story. We must find out how Teresa is making out and whether, in fact, she's as popular as people like to think artificial intelligence is going to be. Okay, I think what we'll do is we will call it a day. That's it. I think we've had enough. It's now 1850. 1850. It's 1050. I'm pulling Domanios all over the place this morning. So I think what we'll do is we will play ourselves out and say cheerio until tomorrow. Max Hurd, I remember his last name. Max Hurd will be here tomorrow with me, and we hopefully will have Fergus Wood with some more advice on wine. And we're all working up to next Monday, being July the 4th, is we will have a party, a party on our own territory, celebrating one of the great losses in UK history, and that is, of course, the 800. Right you are. If there is no more to be said, as they say or not, I think we'll say cheerio. So what we need to do now is to remember how to click this off. What we want to do is to end the broadcast. But we want to play out on our stuff, don't we? And toodle pip. Bye-bye.
Right, so I hope that we're back with you. Uh,
Hmm. Jesus Christ.
Morning. Huh. All right. Not a bad show this morning. Suzanne was on good form. It's always a struggle when you're on your own, but I got through it all right. One or two little glitches, but no, it continues to get better, I think. And I got some stats in yesterday, quite by accident. I didn't realise they were coming. But last week we got something like 500 people watching us just on the one page, one Facebook page. So we're obviously really beginning to build. So that's nice. That's a good feeling. Yeah. And yes, and I sent him some stuff. But then I didn't get a chance to sort of phone him back and say, "Have you got it?" So I will today. At the moment, I've got a few. No, I'm just for some reason I'm quite tired this morning. I don't know why. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I am, but anyway, I don't like being tired because it means I slow down on the things that I've got to do. But anyway, the young man is coming in tomorrow, I think, isn't he? I sent him a whole clatter of photographs. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Oh yes, yes, yes. Yeah, he should be able to tighten that up in the edit and just do simply a very very simple fade. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, yes. Yes. I haven't. Yeah, I haven't got it yet. So yeah, good. But perhaps I'll wait until tomorrow when he comes in to make sure I get it properly. I've got a few things to do today that's going to keep me a little busy until mid afternoon. So and then I'll go home and fall asleep in front of the television. Yes, I will. You're okay, are you? Oh, that's good. That's good. All right. Absolutely. You sound like a good guy. Good, good, excellent, excellent. Good. Good. Well, I look forward to seeing it. So I'll get him to. Well, I'll look at it tomorrow here. Good, excellent. Well, I mean, I trust your judgment, and since you're very, very critical of your own work, if you liked it, then it must be good. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm not quite sure. I'll have to go over with him because he says I sent it about 20, and he said he never received those. And so I sent another batch yesterday. But I also found a couple of me, in a school group photograph. Yeah. Well, there is one of me sprinting at university when I'm only 18. Well, right. Well, I'll resend that because it's in my yearbook. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Right. Right. All right. Well, I'll see what I can do. I mean, there is one of me in the when I was how old would I have been? 27, 28. Yeah. There's one of me in the press gallery at the Vancouver Police Court. So I sent it, but I'll resend it. I think one of the things that we're going to have to do is to make sure that we have a check and double check. So if he asks for some photographs, we need to say I got it or I didn't get it, because it seems. And also, I think he's hopefully we all use one system. The only thing about using a system is if I can't use it, there's no point in having it. Now, WeTransfer I can handle. If there are other things he can teach me, that's fine. But I think we all need to use the same one. Then we don't have cock-ups. Yeah. No, quite. Yeah. Yes, I mean, as long as basically you're happy with the end product as it is at the moment, is just tweaking it with a couple of these things, it's going to be all right. 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 Oh, yeah. 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 Well, I always look at things in a very broad sense because actually we can actually look at things in a professional sense. And we know that a professional would say, oh, But the average public that will be watching this is they won't notice at all. Yeah. Yes, right. Yes. All right, darling. I'll call you tonight. Okay. Okay, sweetie. Talk to you later. Bye. Bye. Jesus Christ. How the hell did that happen?